Classical art forms are like vast oceans. A dip in its pristine waters, and you will be swimming in it till eternity. It's a work of a lifetime, and for some, many lifetimes. Have you ever watched a beautiful performance and wondered what must be going in to be able to perform at that level of excellence? Clearly, we all know the response is Riyaaz. Do you think the word Riyaaz can be confined to the word practice? To me, it has way more connotations and references. Don't you wish they told you what exactly they do when they say, "Hum Riyaaz karte hain"? Well, these are the questions that intrigued me, and I decided to get some answers. Not to keep them with me, but to share with the world at large the vision of these artists, their secrets. Hence the series
Raaz Riyaaz Ka.
So you just spoke about the oil lamp, lighting of the lamp, and I know how significant is the presence of a lamp in a performance. Correct me if I'm wrong. It is believed that sometimes that light that emanates out of the lamp is the only area of performance, and it's considered to be like a meeting point for the audience. So can you tell us more about it, and how, again pertaining to Riyaaz, do you practice with the oil lamp often, or is it like how we wear ghungroos just for music rehearsals? How does that
We
work?
don't practice on a daily basis with the oil lamp in front of us, but the lamp is very significant to the Kuttiyattam actor. We look at the lamp as the sakshi, as the witness. The Kuttiyattam actor never, or in very rare occasions, makes eye contact with the audience. We believe in a translucence beyond the stage. We only feel the audience, we don't look at them. Everything we play towards the lamp. Almost every gesture ends at the lamp and begins from the lamp. So the lamp is very important. Of course, it is a source of light. We have 3 wicks, which some people say represent the Trinity, but it's also 1 towards the audience, dimly lit, and 2 towards the actor, more brightly lit. And there is a certain area that the light covers, which has a very strong influence on the physicality of Kuttiyattam. The Kuttiyattam actor has over centuries figured out how to use just this space to tell stories from all realms. So basically, we say oru paravattam. Paravattam means when a para is like a measure for grains. If you empty that and you spread it, that is the area that usually is mentioned for Kathakali actors. To stay within a certain confined, a certain defined space, and to be able to tell these stories. So the lamp is very significant. Also, the light of the lamp gives a certain dynamic, that it's a flickering light. So once the actor moves away from it and comes closer to it, all of these give a lot of qualities to the acting, which the electric light unfortunately is unable to provide. So the lamp is very significant. In fact, before the performance, hours before the performance, we light the stage lamp first, and then a lamp in the green room. And once the lamp is lit on the stage, nobody enters the stage. It's cleaned and everything, lamp is lit. And it is a way of protecting the energy of the space way ahead of the performance.
Like a cleansing.
And nobody dares to enter that space, or crisscross, walk around. That space is now, in a sense, sacred and protected for the actor to come and perform in.
Beautiful.
So that is very, very important for us. We never perform without the lamp.
So that also brings me to the current scenario where, as we know from the temples, it's moved to the proscenium. There are now auditoriums that don't allow lamps. So how do you navigate that problem?
That has happened to me a couple of times where I've reached places and realized I cannot light the lamp. It has happened a few times, and a couple of times I was also aware that it was not a possibility. And but still we have the lamp in its place, and it's completely different for us
I can
with the
imagine.
fire and without the fire. But it is a thing that theatres have to think about, consider. You know, the use of fire in theatre is really important, and some spaces cannot allow it for very genuine reasons, but then they should have an alternative thing.
Yeah.
But you know, the spaces where I did decide, for example, is one is a wooden theatre in Japan that was designed by Tadashi Suzuki-san, which is basically very similar to a Kuttambalam, like an egg-shaped theatre space, which is like in every other sense brilliant, but it's made completely of wood and very highly inflammable, so they don't allow the lamp. So we performed with the lamp without fire. It was worth the experience, but there is definitely that struggle for us.
you.
Yeah.
But just to, on a lighter note, there is an auditorium in Mumbai which again has these restrictions, but they came with an ingenious way to solve this problem, and you're never going to adopt this. They actually had 6 switches for the 6 wicks. They invited the guests of honor to light the lamp, and they all came and turned one switch on. It was so hilarious because they wanted to keep the ethos, but not realizing that the lighting of the lamp has a certain conditioning. Like you said, there is a certain significance to that act and that whole procedure. But we were laughing our hearts out when they all came, and then we were wondering what is it that they're going to do, because in the audience we couldn't see what's happening, and they came and they just, everyone turned on one switch and one bulb came on in the wicks.
But
So-
isn't it so much a part of our, you know,
Culture.
Agni Sakshi,
Absolutely.
the fire as a witness?
Yes. And
It
like
gives
you
me,
rightly said,
goosebumps always
Yeah.
when I think about that. Yeah.
so
Sorry.
true. No, but like you rightly said, I think theatres need to find a way that they can provide that element, especially for a performing art form like Koodiyattam, which totally revolves around it. I heard you mention somewhere about the use of gestures, and then someone coming and asking you, why do you even focus so much on gestures? Anyways, anyone hardly understands. And then you had a very beautiful response to that. But what I want to also focus on is the integrity of an artist. And I address this question particularly, we have so many young practitioners where sometimes they start questioning these things that, you know, people are not understanding our art form. And this is happening to Kathak and Bharatanatyam. We are talking about Koodiyattam, which is another spectrum altogether. So how do you, and what is it that you wish to tell them about this integrity, where when you are questioned like this, how do you respond to that?
This is a big question. Just coming to the importance of gestures and whether or not every gesture's meaning is being communicated to the audience, and whether or not it's important for the meaning of every gesture to be communicated to the audience. What I feel is that, you know, practicing Koodiyattam, I can actually go onto a stage and do random gestures and get away with it because nobody will know what's going on. Very few people will know that, you know, something is right or wrong. But that's not the point. I genuinely feel the gesture is a tool for the actor first. Because an actor needs absolute conviction about what they're doing. So every gesture, if I say at that time, I know this means at that time in my mind, and that's the only way I can feel at that time. An elephant, I need the gesture to feel the elephant with like absolute conviction. And that conviction is not exactly in the context of Koodiyattam. You can't just invent something, which is also a possibility in like other practices, but just to have repeated a gesture enough number of times that, you know, automatically when you do a gesture, you do the gesture of the elephant, you become an elephant. It becomes, which is the only way over a long performance that you tell with like several characters and stories and several things happening, that you can actually tell a story effectively by being able to, you know, become all kinds of characters, emotions and everything. And I think the gesture is an important tool to for
like a
acting,
pathway.
for the pathway. And Kuttiyattam, speaking about Kuttiyattam, there has never been a time when everybody has understood every gesture. I don't even think that was the case when gestures were being invented. I feel like we always talk about the different layers of audience. There is a certain layer of audience who has seen multiple performances, have a long relationship, who can follow the gesture. But we believe that a performance basically has to offer something to even the last person and last layer of the person who has nothing, who knows nothing about the form, who is probably from a different culture, from a completely different, aesthetic, but can still be drawn to the performance for some reason. So a performance needs to be able to address like different layers of audience. So I don't think basically that making sure that every person in the audience understands every gesture that you perform is a thing.
So again, now I come to a very specific idea which is in Koodiyattam about the seed that you put in the eye, which is also Kathakali. How does that? I've always been very curious about what seed that is. How do you train for it? Do young practitioners practice that, or does it only happen during performance? Just some light on that.
So the seed is called Chundappu in Malayalam. It comes from the eggplant family. It's not the eggplant that we eat. It's basically the ovary of the flower of this plant. We collect these little ovaries. They're like a little bigger than a mustard when we collect them. And then we put them on our palm and we prepare them by taking out the moisture, but by doing like this until they turn black and the size of a mustard approximately. And they are preserved in clean cotton cloth. They can be kept for like a month or so. So this seed is before performance inserted into the lower eyelid of the performer. There are multiple reasons for this. One, a person who is accustomed to seeing actors with the red eyes will almost be shocked if an actor doesn't wear it. So it's very much a part of bringing the eye in tune with almost every part of the body of the actor is covered in one way or another. There's a cloth or an ornament or rice paste on parts of the body that are exposed. The eye, it's putting Chundappu in the eye is a way of bringing the eye into, transforming it into the performer's eye. So once you put it in, what happens is that the eye becomes red, and I generally feel like there is a warmth in the eye which makes it much more powerful than the ordinary eye.
So how do you teach, or you, like I said, in the practice sessions you don't do this. When you're practicing, you never. This is only specific to performance on the day of the performance. It's like how Alta maybe. I mean, just to give a very close example.
So basically it gives like, it changes the quality of the eye, right? So we don't do it on a daily training basis. And usually the very first few experiences of a new student,
yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
trying it on is challenging. The very first experiences that a child has of putting the Chundappu is a little bit,
Correct.
they are nervous and so on.
But I'm sure they're also looking forward to it because
it's a big step. But so you have to get used to it over time. The very first few times, like 6-7 times, it's challenging to hold something because the eye's tendency is to expel anything foreign. But you
and
actually
then to not blink while that is there.
It doesn't make you blink. Actually, you insert it deep into this lower socket, and you and it sits there and it expands a little, so it doesn't escape from the eye. It becomes soft and like squishy. And the first few times is difficult, but then you cannot do without it. I cannot imagine, or have never performed without Chundappu in my eye. It's very important. It completes the transformation, and it really changes the quality of the eye. It makes the eye, we say ardram. Ardram is like there's a moistness, and there's also like the expressiveness. I think generally just becomes more there.
Wow. I cannot tell you how fascinated I am by just learning all these things from you. Now we move to a little different area which is of interest to me, which is again your foray into movies. And I make it sound like now you're into the movies. No, I know you featured in a beautiful movie, The Cloud Messenger. Most often we see when we watch anything which is classical art form related and represented, you always like, okay, I hope it's correctly represented. So what has been your experience and what do you have to share about your bit in it, and if you want to tell us where we can watch it and everything? I'm really looking forward to that one.
I think it's on the verge of being released on a public platform. So Meghdoot is an independent, almost experimental fictional film by a filmmaker called Rahat Mahajan from Himachal. So we worked on the film for several years. It was intense labor. It's not something that happened quickly. I think we worked like 3-4 years to get to the shoot, and then finally we shot the film. Basically, it's a film, it's a very beautiful story that travels across space and time, like very drastically. It goes from a boarding school in Sanawar back to the time of the Yakshas, or to the realm of the Yaksha. And therefore what happens is there are characters in the story that are divine or supernatural, not human. So the idea was to use traditional performance, the language and aesthetic of traditional performing arts like Kuttiyattam, Kathakali, Theyyam, for these special characters that appear in the story. And those characters are very strong and important. Like the most important character is played by a Kathakali actor. It's the character that carries the story from beginning to end.
So were you a part of the scripting also, or did he take guidance from you? Because
so what we did was like technically I think my position would be director of traditional performances. So I was sort of choreographing, casting different performers, designing with the help of practitioners the costumes that we used for the various characters. And basically, I was kind of in that way, I was involved in finding the possibilities of the script with these forms. So in that sense, yes.
But it's so exciting to see that, we are getting space for our forms into mainstream in many ways, because it also helps in popularizing our art forms that much more. Because whatever you may say, these films do have a wider audience. You reach out to a different kind of an audience, if I may say. And then it also brings me to my next question of, this is a sort of a collaboration. Then you're now also collaborating with different art forms, and we've just heard the big announcement about Gigenis, and that is with the Akram Khan company. You want to tell us a little bit about that? We are very excited. The minute the announcement happened, just seeing the names, it's going to be, I don't know what to say, something out of the world.
I think that's about all I also know about the work.
That's it? I thought you would spill some beans and tell us some more about it.
No, in a sense, like I just happened to have the opportunity to meet. I mean, Maven Anna and I have just been fanning each. I mean, we've been each other's fans for a long time.
For the right reasons, I can see.
And I almost feel like I have a soul connection with him, in the sense, not on a, like, just the way he is and the way I am. I think through him that I had the opportunity where I, met Akram Bhai at a workshop, and that was a very good feeling. Meeting Akram Khan just was in a very similar way that one felt about Maven Anna. I just felt like this is a very nice, of course a big name, a great artist, but that's not really what drew me to Akram Bhai. It's just like, I think it's such a person who's constantly trying to learn and understand and send his energy to everyone in the room, and try to be
Just
I
his
just felt
investment, in
safe
the art.
person to collaborate with, like something I'm so looking forward to. And then everybody else who's also in the work. Maithili, again, I'm a huge fan of Maithili's work. Ranjit and Vijna, I almost feel like I grew up with Ranjit and Vijna. I've also known them from like when we were both upcoming, very young, So we've had parallel journeys. So the coming together of all of us is like, it's almost scary how exciting it is. So I'm just like staying calm.
It's a dream team for any viewer who is in love with the arts, because just look at the cast. How can anyone miss watching this? That's my first...
I mean, whatever comes out of it is one thing, but I think I will definitely learn very much from being in this company.
100%. But also, as your form, you think it allows you this kind of coming in and reaching out and accommodating all the other art forms. How do you feel about that? Are you shifting or pushing some boundaries of your art form?
Probably, yes. I think, and I always feel pushing boundaries is important for the artist and the art form. I mean, if done, it depends on the artist and what boundaries they decide to push. But I definitely believe that one needs to allow, at this stage in the world when cultures are basically meeting and interacting on a much more like, it's really happening a lot. Compared to like our history, and I think we need to go with it and find out what happens.
Because I think your response will flow into my next question, which is talking about dwindling audiences and attention spans. What do you see as the future of Koodiyattam? Is this the way to go about so that we also kind of take care of that issue? What are your views on that? Because again, like we know, Koodiyattam is a form, let's be honest, if somebody is programming an evening, they will think about Koodiyattam very strongly in terms of how will the audience respond to that.
It is definitely worrying that attention spans are decreasing, possibly has to do with like social media culture and various things, like just the general speed of life is so fast. And I generally feel like a lot of people, especially women, and I don't want to say this, but have no time in life. I don't mean like people who are very privileged, just people who have to run their daily life. People around me, like in small towns, they have so many things to accomplish each day, like just to get life going. How can you expect somebody to take out like 3-4 hours and come and sit through like days of performance? It's almost unfair. So I generally don't look down upon shorter performances, because I think it's a secular practice in a sense. It's a inclusive practice to have, but I don't mean like 10 minutes of Koodiyattam. It's impossible. Koodiyattam needs like a good 90 minutes to get somewhere. But 90 minutes is okay, because some people only have 90 minutes for a performance. And we need to share it with them as well. But I definitely am worried generally about attention spans, and I think Koodiyattam needs to resist being sucked into, like speeding up or whatever. But in the larger scheme of things, the way society functions will definitely affect the arts and vice versa, and there will be like certain transformations that we cannot control. It's the way it is.
But I think the way you are looking at pushing the boundaries is the apt way, because suddenly I see a representation of your form amongst all these other forms, like it would be in the Akram Khan production. And I think these are nice windows to just give a taste of something to a newer audience who probably has never watched this form. And then once you acquire the taste, then there is a whole world that opens up for them. And I think most things like sushi, nobody likes it the first time you eat it. It's only after you constantly have it, you realize that, okay, you know what, I love it. On that very sumptuous note, we shall end this conversation. There's a whole lot of questions that I would have had for her, but we'll leave that for another time. We have a new section added this time in this season, which is we invited some of our viewers to send in their questions. So we end on this question. This is a question from Shruti Ranade, which is again something that I haven't addressed, so I'm very happy to ask you this question. How do you look at character transitions for an intense form such as Koodiyattam, especially for such expansive, extensive performances?
Transitioning between characters.
Between characters.
So we have a word for it in Koodiyattam. It's called pagarnattam. So whilst in Koodiyattam we have, or rather like from my father I have this concept of the individual, the actor and the character. So every person is an individual who trains and conditions their body, mind, soul, everything to become able to embody characters, and there is a constant negotiation between the individual, the character, and the actor and the character. And in Koodiyattam, every character is almost always also a storyteller, which means we keep shifting the ratio between what is more prominent. Are the characteristics of the character more prominent in this moment of the play, or are they just like in the background, and there is the storytelling that is happening? And in the storytelling we have multiple character impersonations. We impersonate the different characters that appear in the story, and we have a beautiful word for it. It's called pagarnattam. Pagariga means when you take a vessel with water and you pour the water into another vessel. It's called pagariga. So basically my teacher used to always say that the inside of an actor should be like a crystal bowl to which nothing sticks, but which can illuminate, or rather very beautifully hold and showcase whatever is being poured into it. So for us, transitioning characters is like pouring something into your crystal bowl, the inside of you, and emptying it as well without any residue.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to thank Shruti for this beautiful question. This analogy is just so amazing, and I think it's so important to even other people, and in ways if you can adopt or adapt, it would be great. But it's not over yet, don't relax. We have a rapid fire round, which is just a little fun section. Can I rapidly fire these questions? Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Sunrise or moonrise?
Moonrise.
Most favorite outdoor activity on a relaxed day?
Hiking.
The silliest misconception about Koodiyattam?
Silly, that it's boring.
Good one. Most favorite Hindi movie song?
Oh my god, I don't know if it's Hindi, it's Marathi, Khel Mandala.
An artist from the past who you wish you had met and had coffee with?
Balasaraswati.
A book you have reread?
Oh, several, but one of my favorite books ever written is a translation of Milarepa, the biography of the Buddhist monk, translated by Vinaya Chaitanya.
A movie you have rewatched?
Oh my god, several. I can't pick one. Kanchana Sita.
Okay. Favorite holiday destination?
I haven't been there yet, but I'd love to go to Sri Lanka.
Oh, nice. Okay, last question. One thing you look forward to in the year 2024?
Giggerness.
Yay! On that note, thank you so very much for being on Raaz Riyaaz Ka.
Pleasure.
It's been an absolute... Thank you.
I absolutely enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for watching us.
When one uses the word secret, one feels it's something that should not be shared. It should be guarded. But why should knowledge such as this be guarded and not shared? If shared, it will only result in making better and more dedicated artists, and that in turn will only benefit the art. We are fortunate to have such artists in the series Raaz Riyaaz Ka, who are breaking the notion of their Riyaz being a Raaz.
राज रियाज का